Hi, you have reached Odilo's Path of Exile Builds Assistance Center. I am Arthur, how can I help you?
Hello mister, I can't kill that stupid dragon? Can you help me make a really powerful mage?
That's exactly what we are here for. Can you be a little bit more specific about that mage?
You know. The real one, with beard, experienced in battle, shooting fireballs everywhere, and winning all the time.
Please hold on a second. Just let me check something real quick. Oh yes, we got something just for you. Make sure to check it out. Hello everyone. In today's video, we want to show you our true BattleMage Fireball Inquisitor build. Inquisitor is well known for being a very strong ascendancy for any spellcaster build in the current version of the game. The ability to ignore all elemental resistances with critical strikes is one of the best tools available to fight particularly resistive arch-nemesis monsters, but it is not his only strength. Fanaticism is a unique mechanic available only to the Inquisitor ascendancy, which greatly reduces mana costs as well as boosts your cast speed and area of effect if you alternate between casting spells and using attacks. Fortunately, you can simply integrate Leap Slam or Smite into your regular gameplay to have this buff almost all the time. To trigger the Fanaticism buff, you have to reach the maximum amount of Fanatic charges, and you can obtain them while the previous Fanaticism is still active. Thanks to this, you can either prepare a very powerful 4-second burst, paired with various buffs from being focused, or continuously chime in Leap Slam to your casts to get solid sustained DPS. BattleMage granted by another Inquisitor Ascendancy passive is a very interesting mechanic that adds all the damage from your main hand weapon to your spells. Fireball has one of the best damage effectiveness in the game, as high as 370%, making it a great choice for a BattleMage. Fireball is a very simple spell. A fiery projectile travels in a straight line, exploding at the end of its destination to deal damage to every enemy in a small area of effect around it. Those explosions can overlap with a single enemy, causing massive damage from a single cast. This build can reach a very high maximum life and armor rating, with a bit of energy shield on top of that. Thanks to the corrupted soul from Timeless Jewel, half of the damage we take splits into life and energy shield, allowing you to recover both of them at once. We also use glancing blows with a decent amount of attack and spell block chances. Very high cast speed and many projectiles flying everywhere provide amazing clear speed. Works best in open map layouts. With good timing on Fanaticism and focus, you will be able to easily burst down every enemy in the game without any problem. This build uses almost only rare items, so only you decide on its budget. It works quite well with just regular rares, but if you invest in better items, your character will accordingly become stronger. We wouldn't recommend it as a league starter, as the market for some of those rares is quite scarce during the first days. In this build, we use only a few unique items, and none of them is mandatory. The most impactful one is the Glorious Vanity Jewel, which gives you access to the Corrupted Soul Keystone to improve your defenses. There are few possible combinations when it comes to Forbidden Jewels and Watch Your Eye, so pick one that suits you best. Mark of the Shaper can give you enormous amounts of spell damage if your other ring is an Elder-influenced item. It is very efficient considering its price. The Corrupted Soul Keystone granted by Glorious Vanity is a great defensive mechanic that splits half of the damage between life and energy shield, allowing you to recover them both at the same time. If you can't get a good weapon on the alternating scepter base, you can optionally use the Interrogation Jewel instead. It will cost you 4 passive skill points to allocate this jewel. With the Forbidden Flesh and Flame combination, you can take a 5th Inquisitor notable. Pious Path is the best one you can get, but it's also the most expensive. The cheapest option is to get Instruments of Zeal on your jewels and allocate either Sanctuary or Augury of Penitence. There are many modifiers of great use from Watcher's Eye, although for this build the choices are limited to pretty much only Zealotry and Determination. You will use 2 different kinds of rare weapons, a pretty typical Spellcaster one, and one suited for Battlemage. The best way to get access to alternative elemental ailments is by using the Alternating Scepter as a base for one of your weapons, otherwise you will have to use the Interrogation Jewel. Having mostly rare equipment lets you heavily customize your gear and adjust it to your budget. Blizzard Crown is the best base for your rare helmet as it adds a lot of flat cold damage, which boosts your brittle effect. Try to get high life, resistances, or attributes, and craft a trigger modifier to automate your tornado setup. One of the weapons has to be an alternating scepter base, it doesn't matter which one. On your main hand, get as much flat elemental damage as possible, and some useful caster modifiers. Elemental damage will be added to Fireball at 370% effectiveness via the Battlemage, and cold damage is the most important one here. Your other rare scepter should be a typical Spellcaster one, with lots of spell damage, cast speed, and additional levels of fire gems. On your rare body armor you can get a lot of maximum life and many good offensive modifiers, such as a way to generate frenzy charges, additional levels for socketed gems, extra base critical strike chance, etc. Movement speed on your rare boots is not as important as you will use mostly Leap Slam to move around, but you can get a hybrid modifier with a chance to get an onslaught on kill here. Other than that, get maximum life, resistances, and missing attributes. Try to get a lot of maximum life and resistances on your rare gloves. You can craft a very potent modifier that grants attack and cast speed when you use focus, which works great with the bursty playstyle of Fanaticism. Stygian Vice is the best base for your rare belt as it allows you to use additional Abyss Jewel, but it's not required. Again, get as much life and resistances as possible. Flask modifiers are also useful to grant you better uptime on them. On your rare Abyss Jewel socketed in the belt, try to get maximum life and critical strike multiplier. Cold damage added to your spell is also good as it will boost your brittle effect. A good rare amulet can grant you tons of damage. Try to get one with at least maximum life and an additional level for your skills, and then look for other, less potent damage modifiers. To fully utilize Elder Influence on your second ring, you can get one with a critical strike multiplier bonus, but you can settle for just high maximum life and elemental resistances. Try to get rare jewels with maximum life and at least one critical strike multiplier modifier. The rest of the mods depends on your budget. Bottled Faith is an ideal flask for this build as it gives everything we could possibly want: damage, critical strike chance, and consecrated ground. It's a bit expensive but definitely worth the price. Dying Sun is a very good flask to improve your clear speed, as both additional projectiles and increased area of effect are beneficial to Fireball. For your remaining magic flasks, we recommend using Quicksilver Flask with cast or attack speed bonus, Life Flask with bleeding removal, and Granite Flask with increased armor rating. Fireball launches a fiery projectile that explodes upon final impact, in which that explosion can overlap with a single enemy. It has one of the greatest added damage effectiveness out of all spells in the game. Vol version allows better scaling with Sacrificial Garb body armor for additional gem level. Awakened Fork support can provide better clear potential than Pierce support, but regular Fork support is rather weak. Hitting a newly created tornado with your fireballs will add a portion of that hit as a bonus reflected damage. Boosting tornado won't affect the reflected damage, so it is best to use utility support gems like Onslaught or Power Charge on critical. Socket it in the helmet to automatically trigger it every time you use focus. Arcanist Brand attaches a brand to the enemy that casts linked spells on that target. Sniper's Mark increases projectile damage dealt to marked enemy. Upon collision, projectiles are split and sent in all directions, prioritizing nearby enemies. Flame Wall adds flat fire damage to projectiles that travel through the wall. The damage over time effect portion is insignificant in this build. The brand uses your mana to cast spells, so it's recommended to link life tap support to not run out of mana in the middle of fight. Determination Aura grants you a lot of armor rating and boosts it even further. Zealotry improves your spell damage and critical strike chance, and creates consecrated ground under your enemies. Petrified Blood keeps you at low life status and splits incoming hits into direct hit damage and damage over time effect. It also allows reserving half of your life without any disadvantages. Link mentioned auras with Enlightened support to reduce their mana reservation. Defiance Banner increases your armor and reduces the critical strike chance of nearby enemies. Do not link with Enlightened support due to the lack of available sockets. Herald of Ash increases your fire damage and adds a satisfying visual effect on kill. Vitality improves your life regeneration. Adjust gem level to not reserve over 50% of your life. Arrogant support causes linked auras to reserve life instead of mana. Use anomalous quality to increase reservation efficiency. Use Leap Slam to quickly move around, dodge incoming attacks and get fanatic charges. Hitting an enemy with Smite grants a short duration buff that grants a lot of flat lightning damage to your spells. Use faster attack support to speed up the usage of Leap Slam and Smite. Molten Shell creates an absorbing shield that reduces the amount of damage you take. Scales very well with your armor rating, and has a powerful Vol version. Bandit quests can be done in two ways. Aramir and his 2 passive skill points are always best, but Alira's reward is also acceptable, especially when your gear is not that good. For your major Pantheon god power, it is recommended to use the Soul of the Brine King. It prevents you from getting stun-locked and frees up a suffix on one of your flasks. One of the main weaknesses of Petrified Blood is damage over time effects. For that reason, we recommend picking up the Soul of the Aberrath to become immune to burning ground effects. The passive tree consists mostly of nodes increasing your maximum life, critical strikes for spells, elemental damage, and auras. Thanks to the Glancing Blows keystone, we can invest a few points in block chance to get decent results, although it is not our main layer of defense. Socketing Glorious Vanity changes every passive in its radius in a semi-random way. You can use the Path of Building tool to check the possibilities before buying one, but it is not necessary. You only need about a 50% chance to deal a critical strike chance without accounting for the brittle effect to reach the cap once you inflict that ailment. With 2 masteries related to elemental ailments, you will be able to inflict maximum effect of them even on the strongest bosses. Thanks to the Petrified Blood, you will have low life status at all times, which will enable a very strong Pain Attunement keystone for an enormous spell damage bonus. In case you don't have the alternating scepter weapon and decide to use the Interrogation Cluster Jewel, You have easy access to the appropriate socket nearby the Eldritch Battery Keystone. It will cost you 4 extra skill points, but it's better than not having it at all. Thanks to the Hybrid Life and Energy Shield passives, you will have a considerable amount of Energy Shield without any extra effort. Investing in pure Energy Shield passives is not worth it. To use all your auras, you will need all the aura passives and anoint charisma on your amulet. Unfortunately, only some of those modifiers work on life reservation efficiency, which you will need to keep the arrogance setup from reserving over 50% of your maximum life. That's everything you need to know to become the real battle mage on your own. We hope you enjoyed the video. Please leave a like, subscribe and share your opinion. Stay safe and see you in the next one.